Welcome to 5 to 50, Financial Strategies for Growing Companies, the podcast that gives business owners and entrepreneurs the tools to scale with confidence. I'm your host, Jeff Rudner. In every episode, we unpack proven strategies that optimize finances, improve cash flow, and leverage technology that all drive growth. So whether you're a founder, a CEO, or an advisor supporting businesses, you'll hear from proven experts and leaders sharing experiences and insights that you can use to help your company thrive. Let's build smarter, scale faster, and take our business to the next level. Welcome to today's episode of 5 to 50. I'm thrilled to have Tom Hunt with us. Tom is the founder and CEO of Fame, a company that has revolutionized how B2B businesses leverage podcasts to generate tangible ROI. With a great track record that includes growing Fame to $4 million of ARR without any external financing, Tom brings a lot of experience and a unique perspective on building businesses from the ground up. Prior to Fame, Tom worked in roles from consulting at Accenture to leading marketing at Ebsta. Today, we'll explore Tom's journey through the world of startups, the lessons he's learned, and the strategies that have defined his success. Enjoy the show. Tom, welcome to the show.
It is a pleasure to be here. I have a couple of passions in life. First one and primary one is definitely like business and entrepreneurship. And only recently have I got more interested in finance. So I'm excited to explore that.
Awesome. Well, we'll do plenty of that today, but we're going to start with your entrepreneurial journey. I want to start with the 17 businesses you started before launching Fame. What kept you going to get to the 18th?
I'd love to say it was like some noble mission, but I think it was really that I didn't have any other choices. The rationale being, I never really knew what I wanted to do, like as I was growing up. So I studied chemistry because I was like relatively good at it, and my mum didn't want me to do medicine. And then I didn't like being in a lab, so then I was just that's what I did in the final year of uni in chemistry. So then I was like, but I liked working with people, so I decided to go to consulting. And that's when I realized I couldn't be employed. I just hated people telling me what to do. It's probably some childhood thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Then I realized that. And at the same time, I'm getting more and more interested in the internet. And so I'm like, I can't be employed. So if I'm going to make money, if I'm going to live, I'm going to need to start a business related to the thing called the internet. And I can't code. And therefore I have to do some kind of non-technical business. And so it wasn't me going towards some noble mission. It was more me going away from the fact that I probably could live and have an okay life being employed and not running a business, but I probably, for me, would have a better life with my own business. So I was just running away from the fact that I wasn't very good at being employed.
Sure. But 17 businesses is quite a lot of businesses to start. How do you keep motivated?
Yeah. They weren't all like the smallest one might have been like a 1 month test, but I'm counting that as a business, and it probably only lost like $500 or something. But how do I keep motivated? I think it was because I saw myself getting better. Like business number 1, complete shambles, like nothing worked. But then maybe business number 3, maybe we like got a customer quite fast. And then maybe business number 7, we managed to get like 5 customers. And I could see myself getting slightly better at these things, mainly marketing. That's like my skill set. And business number 18, Fame, probably only worked because I managed to improve myself maybe by like 2% over 17, but you compound that and then you actually get quite good.
Yep. Yeah, learning compounds for sure. One thing we say to our team often is it's okay to make mistakes as long as they're different mistakes along the way.
Exactly. But it reminds me, I think it was Jeff Bezos or some like famous entrepreneur, where someone on their team made a mistake that cost them, I don't know, $5 million. And so then in the one-on-one, the person who lost the money was like, okay, so am I getting fired? And then the Jeff Bezos person was like, no, why would I fire? I just paid you $5 million to learn something.
Right. Exactly. You would have been fired if you didn't make that mistake because we're not trying things. That makes sense. Sorry, the numbers definitely hurt, but if you're not learning, you're not growing. So going back to staying on this topic, how do you know when it's time to pivot a business where you're learning things and you can apply things a different way versus how do you know when to shut things down?
Such a interesting question. the first thing that comes to my head is there's this book by Seth Godin called The Dip. And this is the thing that happened, like you start something and it starts going well. And so you go up the high. And then after like month 6, it's like you realize that it's just as hard as everything else. And you go down into the dip and then you decide to drop out or you keep going.
Yep.
I actually only read that like a few years ago. So I couldn't draw on that for inspiration.
Yep.
So good question. Like why, I think let's be practical. And why did I keep going at Fame? I think it was because there's like these 3 stakeholders. There's the team members, there's the clients, and then there's the business. And even if maybe not everything's going amazing, if you can see like green sprouts in all 3 areas, e.g. the business looks like it could be profitable, the clients, some of the clients are happy, and the people working with you are developing their careers and they're starting to be a bit happy, I think that gives you the confidence, even when the results might not be amazing. If you can see green shoots in those 3 areas, then you should proceed, I think. As long as your life enables you to do that, because maybe it takes you 3 years to make a profit and you can't do that because you got kids. Now, fortunately, 5 years ago, I had my living costs were very low. Me and my ex-girlfriend were living at her mum's house during COVID, who was very cheap on the rent. Shout out to my ex-girlfriend's mum for that. So my living costs, I don't know, they're like £2,000, $3,000 a month when I started Fame. And fortunately, I was able to see those green shoots with the team members, the customers, and the business. So that really helped.
So being super in tune with those 3 stakeholders to identify what's working and what's not, and where to reinvest versus where things need to change is what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. So going through your entrepreneurial journey here, you're clearly someone that's comfortable with risk at a certain level. Do you have a process for analyzing risk and opportunities, or do you just try to do everything and see what sticks?
When I worked at EY, Ernst & Young, I'm sure you're aware of those guys. My first job out of uni was such a great role. It was, they have the audit functions. And then, but before you audit the financials, you have to be able to rely on the IT systems. So in EY, there's a function called IT risk and assurance. So that's why I joined. I was going around companies in the UK checking the password settings on their IT systems. And so during that time, I learned something that has really helped me throughout the rest of my life. And I'm surprised how many people don't use this equation. But the risk is a function of likelihood multiplied by impact. And so let's apply this to the 17 businesses. Again, like in 2016, when I was trying these, I was like living in Poland. My living costs were maybe £1,000 a month. And if I wanted to test doing a little business that was going to cost, I don't know, $500 and take up 2 weeks of my time, then the likelihood of it succeeding, as we know from the 7 times I tried before, is low. But then the impact of it not succeeding is not that significant because it's only going to cost me a week and $500. And so I think that really helped. And that's a really good framework to look at risk for business, or also really for like anything in your life. Maybe if you're defining whether you fly to another country or you drive to another country, then you can look at the likelihood and impact. That's a very morbid example, but I think it's a very valuable framework to understand.
I love that. How has your process for analyzing risk changed throughout your career, especially now at Fame? How do you approach opportunities now, and what's different from your prior opportunities or prior career?
When you're in like the startup phase, because you have so much less to lose, you should, I believe, have a great appetite for risk. When you get larger, you have to be a little bit more careful, I think. Now, you have to contrast that with what I believe is called the innovator's dilemma. I was just listening to an audiobook this week. It's quite a famous one about the emergence of AI. I think it's called Supremacy. And the reason why ChatGPT were able to launch the first like a general version of AI and Google weren't is because Google tried to suppress it because they didn't want to ruin their ad business. And so, and then Google, after they realized they were falling behind, they released it straight away and actually took risks that maybe they shouldn't because there were all these issues with the quality, etc. So these are the 2 things you have to balance. When you have something that is valuable, then you have to balance like not risking losing that, but also not being innovated out of the business. And so very fine balance. And so I used to just take every risk, but now I try to think about it a bit more.
Yeah, I guess now you also have more qualitative things to lose as you scale. Dollars and numbers are easy to quantify, but relationships also factor in, and the relationships of your team members. So that can play a factor as well. Is that right?
For sure. Yeah. You like in the early days, for us, we didn't have like good accounting until like a year to one. It was there for like 1.5 to 2 years, I think. So like flying very. It's like my one Google sheet, Anyway, we can talk about that later.
Yeah, we'll get into that for sure. So let's get into some blocking and tackling with Fame. Right now, I think you're over just around 70 team members now. How do you get everyone to row in the same direction?
Yeah, very important question. My answer to this would be the values. But I want to try and be specific. When you're like 5 or 10 people, you, the person who's like built the thing, you and your co-founder, or just you, are able to directly influence every person and how they behave. And you've only got to 5 to 10 people because the way you're behaving is profitable or is working. However, once you have one level of management, your direct impact on the people that are managed by someone else decreases. And so when you get to like 20 people, maybe there's 10 people there that you don't speak to that often. And so what you need to do is somehow codify the behaviors that work, and then make sure that you hire, fire, and promote / reward based on those behaviors. Or you can call them values. It's basically like things that people do. And so I think we've done relatively well at hiring, firing, and then promoting based on these values. I'll just give one example. I stole this from EY. EY has the thing, I think it might have been called a values award, where anybody can give anybody a $50 or £50 bonus for doing something in alignment with the values. And so we have that now where anybody can give anybody that bonus. It gets signed off by their manager or someone else in business. And they have to explain why that behavior is in alignment with the value. And the great thing here is that it incentivizes people to behave in alignment with the values, but then it also reinforces them in the weekly meeting when you announce them all. So this person got a values award from this person for this value, and this is what they did. So that I think is a key strategy.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think reinforcing and communicating values consistently and frequently with the team, just to get everyone aligned, and help them understand what they're buying into and what they're helping build. I don't think you can do it too much.
Yeah, there's 3 to 4 books that really impacted my view on this. The books are by a guy called Patrick Lencioni. He's the guy who wrote 5 Dysfunctions of a Team. And that's a great book, but there are other good ones, like The Motive, The Advantage, I think. Anyway, what he says is that the CEO is really his chief reminding officer. And I remember in the first days of Fame, we'd have a weekly meeting, and I would stop it and I'd be like, go around the circle and get everyone to tell me what the values were, literally just drilling them into people. So that is super important.
Yeah, that's a good weekly task just to keep everyone on track. I love that. So we'll talk about finance a little bit. How has your consulting background influenced your approach to financial management of Fame?
So my consulting background, fortunately or unfortunately,
do you go around and check everyone's password still?
So yeah, so now I say unfortunately, but my consulting background actually didn't give me that exposure to finance. Saying that, in the UK, we have CIMA, which is the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants. I did do the foundation level, but just like French when I was in secondary school, I didn't really pay attention because I didn't think it was important. And now I realize that both of those things, languages and finance, are very important. So I don't think I learned really anything about finance from my consulting background. I learned a lot about how to write emails, run meetings, and do project management, which is very important in a service company. So my interest and exposure to finance has only really come in maybe the last 3 or so years, as I realize how you're basically flying completely blind if you, as the CEO, don't have access to good numbers. You're basically useless, I think, without that. And so it's in those past 3 years where we have an amazing finance assistant. I only this month did a management accounting online course to brush up on my skills. And now I find myself spending more and more time in Zero to ensure that I know what's happening.
Sounds like a good opportunity to learn, but also probably your accounting assistant hates you being in there, messing things up.
Probably.
You don't touch too much.
Exactly. It's so funny. We have the finance system, then we have the external accountant, and like in the P&L, you can like recategorize things. I'm sure you're aware of this stuff, And the accountant was like, guys, if you want to change anything in the P&L, please just email it to me and I will do it. Can you leave it alone?
Don't touch the books. All right, we'll talk about cash a bit for when it comes to starting a business, bootstrapping a company, which Fame is, I understand, right? You haven't taken any outside capital.
Correct.
Is like threading a needle. You're focusing on growing, but doing it profitably so you could fund that growth. What were some early challenges you faced in terms of financial and cash management, and how'd you overcome them?
Yeah. So I have you read the books Simple Numbers by Greg Crabtree?
We have. I've actually met Greg Crabtree.
Have you?
I have, yeah.
Those books are really amazing. So I'm sure like we should link them below if anyone that wants to read. So what I learned from one of those books was that technically we didn't take any funding, right? But really what the equity that I was putting in was the difference between what I could be earning in a job elsewhere and what I was paying myself. And so actually there was a significant investment because I wasn't paying myself a market rate for probably quite a while, maybe 1-2 years. So that is really important for people to understand, I think. Then in terms of challenges, I think maybe we were a little bit lucky. I put into the company bank account maybe £1,000, and we have never, we took on a loan during COVID, but we didn't really need it. We actually invested that in crypto, but we shouldn't talk about that. That's not responsible, but we can talk about that if you want. But I've never needed to like put emergency cash, whether it's from a loan or from me personally, into the company. I think that's maybe because the cash flow cycle is quite good. And maybe you can advise me on this, Jeff, but we invoice on the first day of the month with 30-day payment terms. And then we had two groups of team members, or we had two groups of like people that work in the business. The team members are like the full-time people. They get paid on the last day of the month. And then we had the freelance people that get paid a week later. So during that month, if people pay on time, we probably have enough cash to pay all the team members. And then we have another 7 days to do the freelancers. So I think that is probably why we've never had any significant cash issues. And then obviously, just like Greg Crabtree advises, we have the working capital buffer of like, right now, I think it's 3 to 4 months of operating expenses, so that it's not stressful, basically. How's that set up? Anything I can optimize on that?
Decent. Jeff? One point of recommendation is, instead of invoicing on the first of the month, collect on the first of the month.
It is so topical.
Don't do any work until you get paid. It shows commitment from the client that they're in. You know that your team stands behind the work and you're ready to execute. But I'm not sure what your accounts receivable balance is, but we're all in the business of getting paid for our services. And so it's a lot easier to have a great experience for your clients if we get paid for them than chasing them down for non-payment.
You're so right. This is something that we are looking at right now. We've actually only just started asking new clients to sign up to a direct debit. They still get paid on the final day of the month. They're still getting paid afterwards, but we'll reduce the amount of chasing we have to do because we do have an accounts receivable balance. We do collect on, I'd say, like 99 or 98%. But you're so right, and I don't know why I don't do that. Maybe because I'm scared it will impact the conversion rate of new clients.
That's fine. But my point of view is, if you are chasing down clients for collection, that's inefficiency and it's costing you money in terms of your time. If you're collecting at the end of the month after services you provided, you're effectively financing your clients and you're lending them money in the form of working capital or team time. So, in our business, we invoice and collect on the first day of the month. And, if the bank account's low, then the bank account's low. We understand. We'll give you a couple of days. We're here to support our clients and we can have a conversation, but we're not in the business of giving away free work, just like anybody is. Everyone wants to get paid, and it's one thing to get out of the way. Everyone is on the same page from day one if you get paid on the first.
This is very inspiring, Jeff.
You can do it.
Definitely what we need to do.
You can do it, Tom. All right, but that's great. That's great that you're cash flow positive. You have a working capital balance, but along the way, every dollar that you're not pulling out of the business, you're reinvesting. You're hiring more people. It's got to be stressful for the first few years, trying to figure out what the right number is, how you live off of a salary, or what your take home should be while trying to grow a business. How did you think about that? Hey, I need to hire another person here. Well, that's going to have an impact on, maybe I can't go on vacation this year, or maybe, I can't get a new car, or whatever you have outside of your life.
It is a massive challenge, I think, for the owner operator to decide what they should be doing and what they should hire for. I think I fell into the trap of doing too much myself for these exact reasons. Like, I wanted to be able to get paid enough. I think that probably stunted the growth of the company. Like, for the first, up until it's been going 5 years. So, and for 3.5 of those years, I was still being the direct person working with the client for a number of clients, which probably wasn't that efficient, but it did, I think, enable me to take more money out of the company. Until I read Simple Numbers Great by Greg Krepke, or one of the books where he argues very strongly that owners should take a market rate salary. And so in the 4th and 5th year, I have started doing that, which makes the book so much easier to understand. And so then I'm able to live off that and then take dividends if needed, or if they're available.
Do you still have your legacy clients that you still work with, or have they graduated and freed you up?
In the last year, I have not been the direct person working with the clients. For a couple, I'm still the more senior person who will go to the strategy meetings, etc. More because I just enjoy it, or because I have a great relationship with them.
Yeah, it keeps you fresh too, right?
Exactly.
The pulse. Yeah, we see it so often. Entrepreneurs typically start off their businesses and are very involved in being the product. And it's those who can delegate and who can push down the relationships or the production of the whatever they're selling to other team members, and empower other team members to take ownership of it, who are able to scale and do it well.
Exactly.
So we wanted to talk about your systems and the changes in your processes. Now you have an accounting person, but how have your internal systems and operational processes, along with the financial processes, evolved over the life of Fame? And how do you codify that to get the team to execute?
Yeah, I see the ops function, the documentation and the processes, as a living organism almost. You can never stop, especially in the world of marketing, because as soon as you do, you fall behind other people and your service gets worse. And so people think that maybe they start offering a service and they can just do that forever. But actually the market is evolving just even faster rate every year now. And so probably in the last for the first 3 years, it was probably me who was designing what the process should be, documenting and training people. And then in about year 3, we promoted someone into the head of operations role, who was then responsible for that. And then now the head of operations.
What does that person do?
Yeah, so that person is responsible for finance, but actually we're going to move that over to me now. Now I'm a finance person. But they are responsible for the creative team. So there's a head of written content and video audio content. So for the context of the audience, we're a podcast agency, and visual design. And so there's the creative function. And then there's the project management function, which is the people that are organizing the podcast. So they're responsible for making those functions effective to make our clients happy. And so a massive part of their role is understanding what's going on in the industry, understanding how happy our clients are right now, and then working out how we can tweak and improve processes. And then that's step 1, which is actually the easier step, because the harder step is getting people to do it when you have 70 people. And so how do we do that? Never really understood the value of corporate communications, but that's a key part. The second point is making sure people understand that this is important.
Change management is a beast. Have you taken a bottom up or a top down approach or some sort of blend when it comes to designing those systems and implementing them?
So I would say a bit of both. One example of this is our core role, or the key role, is the account manager. There, it's probably the wrong name for the role, but it's a person who's responsible for the success of the podcast. And when they join, these people have a 1, 2, and 3 month outcomes, things they need to achieve in order to pass probation. And in the third month, one of these items is to create a new working procedure. Or so create a new working procedure, or simplify or edit or improve another one. And so that's an example of ideally they've learned something that they can improve, and they have to do this to pass probation. So that's a bottom-up approach.
That's impressive. How does the team react to those things and those ideas that come on? You're kind of in a constant state of change.
Yeah, we actually got some feedback. So recently our head of operations has gone on maternity leave. So now I'm head of operations and CEO.
Congratulations on the promotion.
And we have had feedback that's come bottom up through like other managers in the company that things are changing too fast, because there's like less, because I'm the founder, I have to ask anyone's approval, and I'm also very like, one of our values is action bias. So that came from me, and that's what I'm trying to get people in the company to do. So maybe I'm changing things too fast, like changing these processes, etc. And so we do get pushback. And so now I've decided to slow down a little bit.
Yep, makes sense.
Because if you try to expect people to do stuff and every week it changes, it's going to be chaos.
That's right. Yeah, you have to be somewhat flexible to a certain extent, but you got to be strong enough to have repeatable processes so people have comfort and confidence in knowing what it is they're doing, what their goals are.
Yeah,
makes sense. How have you determined what metrics to track for Fame?
We run probably a 70% EOS system. And obviously, do you guys run EOS?
We do. So could you just define what EOS is for our listeners?
Oh, yeah. So it's called the Entrepreneurial Operating System, comes from a book called Traction that was released quite a while ago. But it's quite a simple, clear way of running a business. What I find, and with other people that run it, you often won't run 100% EOS because you do different things. And so we probably run about 80%. And there's like 6 aspects of EOS. And one of them is, I think it's an aspect which is the metrics and the scorecard specifically, which is just a list of metrics that you track every week in the leadership meeting. So I'm looking at ours now, actually, and we have a grand total, and maybe too much, of 20 metrics, and maybe it's too much, that we review weekly. And each metric is assigned to one of the 3 functions of the business we have, which is account management, operations, and growth. And so how do we choose those metrics based on the OKRs, which in EOS, they're called rocks. So those are the things trying to achieve in each area of the business. And so there's probably more OKRs than there are metrics here, but we just pick out the metrics that are most important, that will tell us whether we're going in the right direction or not.
Yeah, makes sense. And so how do you set priorities based on those metrics? We have 20 different metrics that are all important. How do you determine the order of importance?
Yeah, so I would say we look at the metrics more as like we kick off the leadership meeting by reviewing them. And so that can help inform the discussion in the leadership meeting. What we're really looking to prioritize are the OKRs or the rocks in EOS. And the way we do that is each function has their OKRs, but then we have his or EOS, I think, but the company OKRs, which I'll just count how many we have. So we have this quarter a total of 10.
Okay.
And so those are the ones that if they are hit or not hit, the bonus is given or not. So these are what we call the company OKRs, which are the priority. And so how do we prioritize them? It's based on the strategy and what we're trying to achieve as a company. So just to give a flavor of a couple of them, there's like the total revenue in the quarter. There's how many new clients we sign. There's how many clients we retain. And then the ops ones are like specific things around like how much good feedback we get for the written assets from clients, basically.
Yeah, makes sense. So just take a step back. You mentioned something important there where I think might be helpful as a tactical piece of advice for our listeners is if you hit your metrics, then the bonus pool is unlocked. Is that right?
Exactly. So we have a company-wide bonus that is paid out at the first month of the next quarter for the previous quarter. That's a percentage of the total salary that each team member has earned. And it has like three chunks for each function of the business. So growth, account management, and ops. And so if we just hit the ops ones, then we only pay out a third of that amount. Whereas if we hit all three of them, then we pay it all out. The idea here is that we're trying to promote a team, like a team ethos, So you have individual bonuses, like even salespeople don't have individual bonuses. So people are only going to get rewarded if the whole team is doing well.
Interesting. So just to clarify, your bonuses are only dependent on company performance. That's great. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, we see so many differences or different clients approach it different ways based on their outlook and their approach. And so, do you find that gives a great sense of collaboration, or does that cause interdepartmental stress?
We have had one department, I won't name them, that have said that they would like to get awarded based just on their OKRs, which we rejected. Now, it's hard for me to say because we have never, this is the only bonus system we've had, and we've never had a different one. So I feel like we have a good team ethos and culture, but I don't really know what it would have been like with something else.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. It's good to learn about your approach. What we see is some other options are having the company bonus be one aspect plus the individual bonus. And so have everybody have their individual goals, which is a portion of their compensation, and then which is unlocked based on their individual performance and their goals. And then the company goals would be on top of that. And so you can kind of bifurcate the two. And so that way you could solve that problem. It's harder to track, but it's another option.
Yeah, you're right. It'll be a bit more admin to track, but what we could potentially get is better performance, because if a department isn't working very well, then other people in the business are like, well, why do I try working hard? So that is a very interesting suggestion.
Yep. Yeah. I'm a big believer in show me the incentives and I'll show you the outcomes. And so if one department feels like the sales team feels like the ops team is slacking and the bonus isn't going to come, then you could get this doom loop cycle, which is is the opposite of what you want to incentivize. So no, just an idea. Obviously, the important thing is also to counterbalance incentives. And so you might get a scenario where, if you incentivize sales to sell, which is what you want them to do, they might, and they're compensated on a percentage of revenue, the risk might be they'll sell and close anything that comes in the door and is willing to say yes, regardless of whether it's a good fit. And so you want to have some sort of adult in the room or some other metric in there that's the opposite of sales, whether it's a quality score or whether it's a timeliness score or it's a retention score, that balances against that. And so bonuses and compensation are tough to manage.
Otherwise, the salespeople could run riot. I think here's what the leadership meeting is quite good, because there's myself, then the head of each department, and then we have the issues list, another EOS thing, where like in that case, the head of account management will raise the issue like these clients are not a persona fit. And so then that goes to the head of growth, and then it's mediated really by the CEO. So that's a good forum for those discussions.
Yeah, and you can have the departmental bonuses that are unlocked as long as certain criteria is met and other departments sign off or someone else signs off. But you want to have some sort of counterbalance. That's what we've seen really work. Cool. All right. So come back to kind of like the career level. What do you think has been the best decision you made that has impacted the overall success of your businesses?
I think it's focus. I think the primary reason why we've been able to be relatively successful over the last 5 years is that we have built a service that is one of the best in the world. There's a couple of other companies that I think that do a good job as well. But we've only been able to do that because we only do one thing, which is the B2B podcast service. And so we probably make a couple of small improvements to it, let's say every week. And again, that compounds over 5 years. But if we had 5 offerings, like a general B2B marketing agency, then it would be those 2 small improvements split over 5. And so we'd be a lot less good. And this was also, I believe, one of the reasons why the 17 businesses I started before didn't work very well, because I was often working on 3 of them at the same time, and maybe even one of them wasn't focused enough. And so my efforts to improve them were spread over all these different things. Whereas as soon as I started Fame, I became very focused on just making this one process as good as it could be. So that, I think, is probably the biggest learning I've had over over my entrepreneurial career, which is about a decade.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and something that my business partner and I go back and forth often about is the benefits of being niche versus the risks of being niche. That's something that we just haven't been able to dial in, and it's something maybe in the future we'll be able to. We're more of a general firm where we support small and medium-sized businesses looking to scale with kind of the similar mindset with outsourced accounting, fractional CFO, and tax functions. But we don't have a specific industry. And so that gives us comfort that if the economy in one sector has a downturn, then we have some diversification, but it also slows our scale because the messaging isn't consistent. We're talking to different business owners in different hats. So it's awesome that you're able to do that. The messaging's so much easier if you're only talking to one audience. Is that right?
Yeah, pros and cons. So the positioning of I think there's really like 3 ways we could get broader. So we're like B2B, like the customer, which is B2B companies. And then we just sell this one thing, which is the podcast. And then the third potential way we could broaden out, which is industry. So we could actually get more niche if we just do cybersecurity podcasts for B2B. So we just have 2 of them, which I think is fine for now. I think if I was to start again, maybe I would start with all 3 and just go for like a specific to cybersecurity. I think is actually quite a good one. They have high ACVs. I think you'd be able to grow quite fast in the early days because your messaging would just be so tight and they would be easy to find customers. And you would win against all the other competitors that were cybersecurity specific. And there's probably like 5,000 cybersecurity B2B companies that you sell to. But right now we're happy with the positioning we have.
Yeah, awesome. What are you looking to improve in the business when it comes to your systems, your processes, and help you achieve your goals for the next 1 to 5 years?
Yeah, again, going back to Greg Crabtree, I think it's him that talks about the black holes, like the different levels of revenue where it could be like hellish. I think we're just coming out of one of those, where essentially from year 3 to year 4, profitability actually margin went down, and the absolute profit amount went down, even though the revenue went up significantly, because we were learning how to run a business at that revenue level with so many people. I feel like we're just coming out of that now because we're forecast in the next year, which is this financial year, to grow revenue slower, but profits are going to increase based on those 2 years. And so how did we get out of that? I think we just persevered, kept trying to improve the service, and got a little bit more disciplined about margin levels. I used to just be obsessed with the top line revenue number, but then you realize that actually it's kind of pointless. And actually sometimes more revenue is not good for anybody.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So what were the things in the business that were causing your profitability to go down that you think are now been absorbed? Is it added costs that just didn't support, that you needed to support the growth that now you're getting a return on, or something else?
Yeah, I think there's a few things. One of them was that there were a number of things we were doing in the service that we were either actually paying for, e.g. like running ads, or that our team members were doing that actually weren't having much of an impact on what the client cared about. And so it was basically after 3 or 4 years, we bloated the working procedures with all this stuff. We thought more was better, but actually more is not better. Making the clients happy is better. And so we're able to cut some of that down, which reduced cost. Talking about the focus thing, I came very close to broadening out Fame's brand from just B2B podcasts to B2B social podcasts and email newsletters. And so we actively sought clients for those new services, and then brought clients on, but realized that making 3 services really good is more than 3 times the work of making one really good. And so bringing those clients on where the level of profit for those clients was already lower, plus all of the operational overhead to try and learn how to do those better and make those services better, definitely decreased profitability. So we still actually do offer those services, but they're not part of Fame's outward brand, and we don't actively advertise them. So those are 2 of the things that definitely helped with profitability or getting through that black hole.
Yeah, staying focused on the services you offer, regardless of how attractive some bright, shiny objects are that seem related, but in reality are completely separate businesses or require a different skill set. They can completely relate to that. So what's the North Star goal for Fame? What are you trying to achieve?
So our mission as a business is to be the biggest and best B2B podcast agency. I think we're in the top 3. So I don't think we're there yet. For me personally, as long as I'm learning and the company is growing, then I'm happy. And if the company is growing, I'm probably going to be learning, because that means my role has to evolve. So really, the company growing is the key thing. So then my job is to keep the company growing.
Yep.
Which is a real something that I really enjoy. It's a big challenge. So it can be sometimes more challenging than others. I'm sure you know, as a founder of the business. So if we're able to become the biggest, the best B2B podcast agency, we're able to keep growing. And in order to do both of those things, we have to make as I mentioned at the start of this episode, the 3 groups of people happy, which is the business, e.g. are we profitable enough? The team members, e.g. are we paying them enough and are they getting fulfillment from their role? And then the clients, are we delivering them value? So that's my role as the CEO, is to ensure that happens.
Awesome. We'd love to do some rapid fire questions here to get quick few one-liners or just some headlines. What financial metric do you find yourself analyzing most frequently when it comes in Fame?
Probably my favorite one at the moment, because we're doing quite well on it, is a percentage of money we spend on ads to revenue. And I know it's not and a more accurate method of looking at how good we are at marketing is the fully diluted marketing function cost, not just the ad spend. But that's the one that I think we're doing well at. So that's what I'm checking.
Awesome. What is the best piece of financial advice you've ever received?
So I didn't get it directly, but I loved with Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett, saying that they wish that people graduated from school with a card with only 11 stamps on it. And that's the total number of investments you can make in your life. And so, because I've tried to buy or invest in loads of different things and lots of money, and there's only a few things that have ever worked. So I think that's a really good piece of advice.
Awesome. Yeah, it goes back to your point of focus, right? And conviction. What's one common financial pitfall you advise entrepreneurs to avoid?
The thing that I think I fell for in the first 3 years of Fame, which was focusing my efforts and whether I thought I was successful or not based on the top line revenue. And maybe that's right for tech or for VC-backed companies, but it really doesn't matter as much as profit. And also not all revenue is created equal. It could be worse.
100%. What's your favorite tool for tracking finances and doing analysis?
I kind of love and hate Xero. It's so clunky. Did you guys use Xero or something else?
We don't, but it's just not as prevalent in the US.
Oh, really? Fair enough. Yeah, it's like so clunky. I'm sure there's like better alternatives, but what's great about their business is like you're very locked in, it's customized. And so I would say Zero, I love and I hate it because I do, especially recently, I've really enjoyed like getting stuck into P&L. But it's also like very clunky and could be much better.
Yeah, for sure. The unlock though is when you start reviewing your balance sheet before your P&L.
This is what I learned on the management accounting course. That's like the next level though. That's like advanced, right, Jeff?
Doesn't have to be, but it's typically step 2 for entrepreneurs, but we advise it to be step 1.
Really?
Yeah. That's where we start all of our analyses is on the balance sheet.
And what about the cash flow statement?
Cash flow statement is helpful, but that's typically second or third. If you look at the balance sheet, you know what your cash, the change in cash is.
Yeah, which is the key.
Yeah. So, then I can just go back with to what software we use for accounting. We typically QuickBooks Online and Sage Intacct, which we use for some of our bigger clients. What is some quick advice you have for someone starting their first B2B business?
So that's a focus thing, but we've already covered that pretty hard. I think that whether software or service, and actually those two things for me are very similar. It's just whether you have people doing the work or microchips. So whether software or service, you, the founder, I believe, have to be in there in the detail, doing as much work as possible for the first, 10 customers. It's very hard for you to train other people to do it, improve it, grow it, if you don't have like the intimate knowledge of the customer's problem and how your solution can help them.
I love that. Tom, where can people find you if they're looking to learn more about you or Fame?
LinkedIn is best for personal. So Tom Hunt on LinkedIn, and then Fame is just fame.so is the domain.
Awesome. Tom, thank you so much for taking the time today. There's so much learnings for our listeners, and look forward to hopefully having you on in the future.
Thanks so much, Jeff.
All right, talk to you soon.
Cheers.
Thanks for tuning in to 5 to 50. If you found today's episode helpful, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with other business owners looking to grow. Do you have a question or a topic you'd like us to cover? Connect with us on LinkedIn or reach out to us at ProSeer, where we're empowering entrepreneurs with real-time, actionable insights and financial infrastructure through smarter accounting, tax, and financial strategies. Let's keep this conversation going. Together, we'll help our businesses thrive. Talk to you soon.